Hey there, toy collector friends and Star Wars fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the time traveling toy collector, and this here is a special action figure set, one of a set of three, released as part of the Kenner sort of retro line. So let's just zoom down so you can have a butcher's at what we're looking at here. Well, I say it's the retro line. It technically isn't. I think it predates the retro line slightly. But it's the Droid pack, so it's the 3-pack Droid. I used to love collecting my Droids, I really did. So as part of the original run of Kenner action figures back then in the UK, we had Power Toy, then Kenner. Long before Power of the Force, long before anything else, we had the Star Wars figures, then we had the Empire Strikes Back figures, then we had the Return of the Jedi figures. This was more or less the kind of scale that we were dealing with, and it's some nice packaging, don't get me wrong. So it's Star Wars special. It's got the hook hole there, but it is unpunched, so that's always nice. But yeah, it's the Droid set. As I said, it's a set of 3, but this was more or less the scale that we were dealing with. Of course, back in the day, the Power Droid unit, which is here on the right, was, certainly my edition, was blue with a sticker and the feet that clicked when you moved them. I've tried to have a look underneath, and I will take them out of this box to get a better look at them, but I strongly suspect, I don't know whether they move or not, they don't, because I, as of yet, haven't taken them out of the box. The R5-D4 over here, which weirdly was one of my favourite droids, even though he didn't get to do much. This is obviously this is a current-ish tooling of this figure, much like the R2 from the 1970s. R5 just had a sticker around the barrel part of his body, and definitely didn't have that central leg, and certainly didn't have an antenna coming out. That's probably one of his broken retro. It's one of his faulty circuits. But yeah, I think in terms of the quality of these variations, it's a bit mixed, because the Power Droid is probably far more screen accurate than it was when I was playing with my version. But I don't mean to be mean, it's not as much fun looking, is it? It doesn't look all that fun. I haven't mentioned yet the Death Star Droid. This actually looks, it probably isn't, but it looks smaller than the ones we used to have as kids. The head sculpt is certainly far more detailed, but the body is far less metallic. If those of you who remember or have collected your figures retrospectively, the Death Star Droid was a shiny silver droid, not too dissimilar in metallic sheen to that of C-3PO. And as I've mentioned already, R5-D4 was a wraparound sticker. So the packaging is quite nice, and of course, as I said, it's a set of 3. So here's this one at the top, which is the Droid set. Then we have the villain set, which I think is a bit mean. It's coming from a position of ignorance. I don't approve, because of all of these, were they villains, or have there been has there been some retconning done, to the continuity to make them out that they're not villains? But the Sand People were just looking after their own. And we've had more evidence of that in the Book of Boba Fett. Talking of which, here's Boba Fett. Is he a villain? He came across as a villain because we didn't have an awful lot of information about him in the Empire Strikes Back, and then subsequently in Return of the Jedi. But he was just doing his job. He's a bounty hunter. Let's not forget Han Solo was a criminal. Let's just, remember that for a shocking second. We're not getting into the who shot first thing. I'm just saying he was a bounty hunter. And Snaggletooth, yeah, okay, he was a troublemaker. He was a bit of a troublemaker in the cantina. So yeah, but honestly, are we saying they're villains? I think that's harsh. I think that's harsh, Kenner. I think that's harsh. Then lastly, we have, and this, I don't get this, the Android set. Now, I think I know what an android is, and technically, I'll go with C-3PO being an android, in the same way that I'd go with the Death Star Droid being an android. But R2-D2 isn't an android because he's not he's not. I think part of the I was going to say androgynous, which isn't quite right. But it's to do with the humanising, isn't it? I'm now making myself look like a right numpty. But you know what I'm talking about. Androids tend to look humanesque. Not necessarily Uncanny Valley humanesque, but humanesque. So C-3PO, yeah, android. Death Star Droid, yeah, android. R2-D2, an android? No, because if R2-D2 is an android, R5-D4 is an android. And if R5-D4 is an android, Power Droid's an android. So, And all of that is completely demolished when you then go, hello, Chewbacca. Chewbacca, not an android at all, by any stretch of the imagination. Wookiee, yes. Android? No. No, don't understand. Or is this some shocking revelation that's never been, explored further? Chewbacca and the whole race of Wookiees actually androids. Who knew? Android invasion. So that was, yeah, that's weird. This is a sticker from its place of origin, so apologies for the free marketing. And it's unintentional, but I didn't want to damage the backing by taking it off or make it worse by, covering it up or something. I might paint it black at some point so it just disappears into the ether. But yeah, so that for me is a strange combination of what we think these figure sets are. Doesn't mean I won't try and find them, but yeah, certainly for the here and the now, this is the only one that I've managed to get. And I really like it. I'm really glad. I think they're really cute, to be honest. I do think that the Death Star Droid is underscaled somehow. I don't know. He dips a bit below the line of the box. So I think this is on a tray. It is on a tray. So what I'm gonna do now is, actually I'll do it in camera to save you all the frustration if it's possible. Here we go. Bear with. I hope this is going to work. And then otherwise, oh yes it is. There we go. Hang on. Move that over to one side. Okay, so yeah. So it is in a tray. It's in a tray with the bubble effect. Or there's the and the essential instructions that tell you not to eat any of them because it's bad to eat your droids. Don't do it. So yeah, we can see them a bit more in a bit more detail here. It doesn't look like R5's middle leg can actually recess into the body, so we're probably stuck with that out, which is fine. I can live with that. Yeah, the Death Star Droid may be taller than he looked because his feet are significantly further down than R5's or the Power Droid, who I think also goes by the name of Gronk, but I might be making that up. But yeah, not quite as shiny as the original, but the head sculpt is probably a little bit more accurate, as is possibly the chest sculpt. Does look to have knee and I think elbow, but I might be wrong, articulation, as well as the sort of neck and shoulders and hips that we are familiar with this sort of generation of figure. Again, I can't see from here whether Gronk, the Power Droid, does or does not have independently clicking, moving feet, but he may do. It does appear that there's a cable attached from his feet to his torso there. You can see that. So I'll explore that. The big question, of course, now is whether or not to take them out of this bubble that they're protected in. Because I do kind of like the presentation of the set. I would also, of course, like to get my hands on these figures, because that's who I am. I'll worry about that in the fullness of time. If I do take them out, I'll make sure that you get sight of it. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of just share these with you because I think they're a really nice little set. It's for me, it feels like a bit of an oddity set, particularly because for me this is the only one that is 100% makes sense because they're droids, so it's a droid set. But the other two sets in the range, not so much sense. But it's nice to see this sort of classification of figures presented in the old sort of train track Star Wars Kenner mould. I mean, I appreciate that it's a Hasbro release. I'm under no illusions about that. But yeah, I really like it. I'm really glad I managed to pick it up. And I will most definitely be trying to see if I can get the other two boxes. And if I can, that's when I might take these guys out of here and and actually put them on display and give you all a little in-hand tour of the figures. But I think from a storage and safety point of view, in the meantime, I might keep them tucked away in here for a little bit longer. Anyway, do you have these sets? Do you have the other two sets? Do you think I'm being too pedantic? Don't answer that necessarily. Be kind if you are answering it. About what they're called, because it just strikes me as a bit strange, but then maybe I'm behind the times and Chewbacca's an android and the Sand People are villains rather than just an indigenous culture that's had a lot to put up with. Yeah, I'll kind of leave that there. I hope you've enjoyed having this little look at these 3 Star Wars figures and the packaging. As I say, leave a note in the comments if you have the other sets. I'd love to have a sight of them. So by all means, link to your own videos or link to whatever else. And if you haven't, but you know where I can pick them up, then leave that in the messages as well, because I am definitely on the lookout for them. So thank you very much. So I'll leave you with this lingering shot, and just end by saying thank you for spending the last 12 or so minutes with me. I've been the Time Travelling Toy Collector. You've been a fantastic audience, and this has been the Star Wars Special Action Figure set from Hasbro, pretending to be Kenner, of these sort of pseudo vintage era retro classic Star Wars figures from Star Wars A New Hope, and I very much look forward to seeing you in a future video. So it just remains for me to say take care, and remember that a thing of beauty really is a toy forever. Goodbye for now.